đi thuyền là 16 đồng một người.
Let's take a step back in time, a big step to the 12th century. To our left, there was nothing but vast stretches of marshland, lakes, and seas. To our right, at the mouth of the Amsterdam River, was an early settlement of simple huts. Settlers built a dam across the river, hence the name Amsterdam, or the dam built across the Amstel.
Now, fast forward a few hundred years. Amsterdam has grown into a fortified medieval village, complete with dikes, ditches, and canals to control the sea level. Even this far back in time, it was an important trading hub. Ships sailed back and forth across the Baltic Sea carrying grain, cloth, wood, and salt. The original home of Amsterdam would have been to our right. During the Middle Ages, a moat, now called a singel, encircled the city. The church you see, the St. Nicholas, was built centuries later. Named after the patron saint of seafarers, it stood overlooking the harbor. Also to our right is the 15th century Schreier's Tower. This outer defense tower got its name from the scare, or sharp corner, formed by the city walls that met here.
Look to the left. Nothing you see, including the land itself, was here during medieval times. Over the centuries, much of the land around us was wrestled from the sea. To reclaim this polder, or land that was once covered by lakes and seas, industrious Amsterdammers built dikes and used windmills and pumps to get rid of unwanted water. And they've done an amazing and ingenious job of it. When it comes to controlling sea levels, the Netherlands takes the lead worldwide.
We're now heading back to where our tour began, as we draw closer to the mouth of the Amstel River, where Amsterdam was first established. Again, we see the large Baroque-style St. Nicholas Church, named after the patron saint of seafarers. After the Protestant Reformation, Catholics were not allowed to practice their religion publicly in Amsterdam. They built secret churches hidden away in secular buildings. One of these, the Ons Lieve hier op zolder, or Our Lord in the Attic, is now another museum you can visit while in Amsterdam. In the late 18th century, French rulers restored Catholic rights to worship openly, and this church was built shortly after.
Let's move further back to the 17th century, when Amsterdam was one of the wealthiest and most powerful cities in Europe. At that time, the round Schreier's Tower that sits in front of St. Nicholas Church had already been standing at the city's edge for 200 years. Many ships set sail from here, including the Dutch East India Company's first expedition. At the beginning of the Golden Age, the English explorer Henry Hudson also set sail from the Schreier's Tower. He was in search of a new trade route to the East Indies on behalf of the Dutch East Indian Company. Instead, he found North America and the river that now bears his name. The tower has a plaque commemorating his journey.
The golden age of the 17th century was a stellar time for Amsterdam. From politics and the economy to arts and science, everything flourished. And the city was now the most important trade center in Europe. There are many reasons for Amsterdam's astounding success. It had the largest and most progressive shipbuilding industry in Europe. Dutch traders sailed farther than anyone else, to newly discovered lands in the Far East, and to North and South America. They organized into companies like the Dutch East Indian Company and the Dutch West Indian Company. And the profits from trading staples like grain and exotics, such as spices, porcelain, precious stones, and textiles, were enormous.
Đi vô bến nhỏ nè, đi vô bến nhỏ. Ồ, có chiếc kia đang ra. Có đèn vàng kìa, có đèn vàng nè, đèn vàng này. Ở dưới nước cũng có đèn tên đèn đỏ.
We're now traveling along what was once the outer defense wall of the city. The original city boundary was to the right, to the left, salt marsh and the North Sea. The red tower coming up ahead of us is the medieval Montalban store. An ideal lookout for sighting potential invaders, it was built to protect the city's shipyards, wharves, and warehouses from attack. From here, Dutch soldiers armed with longbows, crossbows, and floating firearms called arquebuses kept watch over the wide expanses below.
The tower's white spire and clocks were added a century later. They were designed by Hendrik de Keyser, an architect whose work can be seen around Amsterdam, and who you're certain to hear more about on this cruise. The clocks couldn't keep time, and the tower's bells rang out randomly, so locals gave it the nickname Silly Jack.
Not long after the spire and clocks were added, the tower began to lift to one side. With some effort, it was pulled to right. You might be wondering why so many buildings in the city tip to one side or the other. The ground in Amsterdam, a mix of peat, sand, and soil, is very soft. Because of this, buildings were generally designed to be as high as possible. None were very tall, and they often had lots of windows. For stability, they were built on a bed of wooden piles driven as deep as 15 meters, that's 45 feet, into the ground. But if these piles were exposed to the air, they began to rot, and the buildings they supported sank and shifted. Today, water levels in and around the city are carefully controlled to minimize rotting. When new piles are needed, they're made of concrete. Still, you'll see many a house with a sideways tilt.
The Montalban Storen was a place where sailors gathered before setting out to sea. The journeys were long and difficult, and not everyone returned. Legend has it that the women who loved them also came here to say goodbye.
Đứng lên, stand lên để thấy bên tàu kia kìa.
We are now on the Odeschans, or Outer Trench Canal. During the 16th century, it served as a defense canal. All the city's canals served one or more of these functions. As a transportation route, a line of defense, or a way to manage water levels. The Odeschans, because of its size and location, did all of these. Because it was one of the only canals wide enough for large ships to sail, and because of its proximity to the harbor, the Odeschans became a convenient place to unload cargo.
Đi là bà lái.
Oké, dan de komende 4 en 8 mei zitten aan elkaar. Maar ik denk dat als Kuip wel even wil wachten, hoop ik.
We're about to pass through one of the city's old blocks. The small, tinny black building was once the lockmaster's house. It's now a pub and cafe full of 17th century charm, stone floors, wooden benches, and exposed ceiling beams. Its outdoor patio is a great place for watching boats on the canal.
Traffic. Traffic. Qua cái cầu có 2 chiếc qua luôn, chiếc bự. Tàu bự quá. Hai chiếc luôn. Cái nhà này làm kế bên nước, ớn quá. Năm này qua năm kia nó nằm ở dưới nước. Ông mẹ bên lái có chút xíu, cầm thì cũng đưa qua đưa lại thôi, không có cần xây. Có một chiếc bự đang đi tới. Chiếc bự đi vô.
We're now approaching the Vater location.
It's
located adjacent to the City Hall, the large red brick building. The original Vater location was an island built in the 17th century to create space for Jewish settlers. At the time, it was called Flumenberg for Flooding Island. Over time, the name morphed into Fleuendorf.
Còn này là cần số nè,
And the
còn
bustling
kia
market
lái,
held here
bánh lái,
is called the flea market.
lái chỉ đưa qua đưa lại thôi.
For centuries, Jewish traders sold their wares here. The market continues to operate and is now known as the largest flea market in the Netherlands.
Kia có bò luôn. Tàu này trái cho uống gì. Mình chơi đem báo 4 chai nước ra để đó.
Причем приличные растения по-нашему нет. Для них это может быть и ромашка, а для нас рододендрон то это 50 рублей.
Ворот велосипеда нет.
Да. Целую кучу, куда уже воровать?
Sợ người ta thấy ngoại sợ. Cho nên bây giờ cái mục đích để nhìn xa, không có nhìn gần. Chỗ nào có đồng hồ, đầu có con gà, cái chỗ gần đèn xanh đèn đỏ, cái chỗ đèn xanh đèn đỏ.
Look at the group of very crooked houses. We affectionately refer to them as the dancing houses because they look like they're tilting and swaying to some happy tune. These buildings get their crazy tilts from the wooden piles that are supposed to be holding them up. The more the piles rock, the wilder the houses dance. The outward lean that you see on so many buildings is another story. It has nothing to do with rotting piles. The facades, or the faces of buildings, were intentionally built this way. In fact, a 16th century law put limits on how far a building could lean forward, lest it topple down.
Waar gaat het mis? Veel te ver doorgaan. Je moet het meer bieden. Daarbij is hij gewoon een deal tussendoor. Ja. Kijk, hoe doe jij het?
Qua không nổi hả? Cao mà. Thì cũng tùy lại. Hả? Nó không qua được. Đó là đất lớn.
Чтобы он не засыпал, надо делать.
Đi tàu Kia qua được rồi.
Qua đường nó phải biết chứ.
Of blijf achter. Dan blijft plakken, is er ronduit achter. Maar stiekem heel een beetje die bakken. Een klein beetje. En nu weer, nou ga je het rustig.
We're now on the Amsterdam River. The round white-faced building you see next to the City Hall is the Music Theater, or Music Theater. It's home to the Dutch opera, known for its daring production, the Holland Sinfonia, and the world-renowned Dutch National Ballet. The Dutch may be known for their tolerant attitudes, but they also have strong opinions. This piece of architecture was met with heavy protests that have since simmered down. In fact, that's how it got its name, Stilfera. It's derived from the movement against the construction, Stop the Opera.
Nó đi sao mà muốn vượt qua trước?
Bây giờ thấy làm gì
hả?
Bây giờ thấy làm gì hả? Vượt qua thằng kia luôn nha. Rồi đó đấy kìa, mặt xấu rồi, cái này nó sợ chứ.
The Mahara Brug, otherwise referred to as the famous Skinny Bridge, stretches all the way across the Amstel River. Of Amsterdam's 1,500 or so bridges, this is the most famous. It dates back to the 17th century and was likely a narrow footbridge. Since then, it's been reconstructed more than once and grown wider with age. Legend has it that whoever you kiss while passing under the bridge will be your true love for life.
We're now on Herrengracht, or the Gentleman's Canal. It was part of a careful plan to expand the city. In the early 17th century, a time of tremendous physical and economic growth, 3 new canals were laid out in concentric rings. The Herrengracht was innermost. The Kaisersgracht, or Emperor's Canal, was in the middle, followed by the Prinsengracht, or the Prince's Canal.
The wealthiest citizens, shipbuilders, merchants, investors, and politicians built elegant mansions on the Herrengracht. The Kaisersgracht was solidly middle class, while the Prinsengracht had a more industrial atmosphere. Of the 3 canals, the Prinsengracht was the only one that connected directly to the harbor, and its low sides were designed for loading and unloading cargo.
And so, the farther you lived from the city center, the lower your social class. Today, this would no longer hold true. All of the city center is expensive.
Tới đó nó cũng quay, người ta cũng quay, cái tàu này nó quay, thằng kia cũng thân nhiều. Kia đi sao mà cũng yêu thơm.
Ben je Amsterdammer?
Ja. Nou, ik ben wel geboren in Haarlemmermeer, maar...
Cái lòn nó vừa cái tàu cực. Phải nhịn.
Kia đang đi qua hả? Traffic hả?
Có một khoảng chờ.
Còn kia đang kia đi trước. Đấy, chạy nhanh quá với nó ve, nó làm cho tàu chậm rồi, nó đi ngược. Gạch tình mà nó ngâm dưới nước mà chắc chữ hay.
Get your camera ready. We're about to pass by one of the most photographed views in Amsterdam. The Seven Arched Bridges over Regulier's Rock, or Regulier's Canal. This beautiful and unique view of all 7 bridges at once can only be seen from here, on one of the Herring Rock. Our time capsule
Này
will slow down to give everyone a chance
rồi.
to catch a photo of this unique sight.
Sự đi qua cái gì đó. Không thấy gì đâu.
While nobles ruled elsewhere in Europe, here in Amsterdam, it was the self-made merchants. During the 17th century, they were earning as much as 700,000 euros a month. That's more than the average rich person earns today. The wealthiest of the wealthy lived here, on the Herring Rock.
Today, almost all of these mansions are used for business, as people can no longer afford to live in them. An exception is the city's mayor, whose official residence is at number 502 Herring Rock. Look for the great facade with white columns just before the bridge.
The golden age of the 17th century was a stellar time for Amsterdam. From politics and the economy to arts and science, everything flourished. And the city was now the most important trade center in Europe. There are many reasons for Amsterdam's astounding success. It had the largest and most progressive shipbuilding industry in Europe. Dutch traders sailed farther than anyone else to newly discovered lands in the Far East and to North and South America. They organized into companies like the Dutch East Indian Company and the Dutch West Indian Company. And the profits from trading staples like grain and exotics, such as spices, porcelain, precious stones, and textiles, were enormous.
Now let's slip back in time to the 17th century. Imagine a colorful scene. Gentlemen in fine clothing on the street, speaking different languages. Elegantly outfitted ladies stepping down into horse-pulled carriages. The clatter of wheels on cobblestones. And dare we mention it? An unpleasant waft of sewage coming from the canal.
Building restrictions limited houses to a width of no more than 6 meters, or 18 feet. But those who could afford got around this by buying 2 adjacent lots and building a double house. Some of these double homes even had 2 different facades. There was no restriction on depth. And with 20 to 40 rooms, a large private garden, and a coach house behind that, mansions often stretched all the way over to the next street.
We're now at the so-called Golden Bend of the Herrengracht, the most lavish section of all. Imagine going into one of these sumptuous homes. On the first floor, an elegant entrance hall with marble floors, high ceilings, and chandeliers. Mirrors were strategically positioned to create an illusion of even more space. And single-lot houses would often have a fake door on the side of the entryway to make them appear bigger than they were.
Rooms were richly decorated with painted wallpaper, oil paintings, fine sculptures, and exotics such as Turkish rugs and Persian silks. In the second half of the 17th century, Parisian furniture, Louis XVI, was very much in vogue.
As a gentleman, you might join your host in a deep-colored smoking room. This would receive you in a light blue salon or tea room. Here, you'd sip imported tea from China while looking out over a beautifully manicured garden. Musical concerts and grand parties were common, and each house had many rooms dedicated to entertaining. For a first-hand glimpse of life inside an opulent canal house, there are two wonderful museums in the area, the Hilving House and the Village Holthausen.
Google. Google Box. Google Box.
Ja, kom maar, die ga ik niet doen. Die zal maar doen.
Weet je het nog?
Jawel. Ja, is goed gegaan.
Mở cửa ra.
Ja, voor lekker door. Dankjewel.
Mở chân rút ra được mà.
Mở được.
Cái này mở ra được.
Nó cho mình mở cửa. Nó mở cửa ra được. Nó cho mở mà. We cannot.
Hồi đừng gãy đấy. Đây đây.
Dude, stop.
Let me get out. Oh, here we go.
We konden er weer aan. Ja, de morgen gaat vanuit de lijst over de kijk.
Eat potatoes, no rice.
Drink me not the water, huh? Drink handy can.
I don't drink.
As we pass by these richly decorated canal houses, there's so much to notice. So many flourishes and details, ornate door cases, sculptures, and of course the decorative gables at the roofline.
There are several different types of gables, and over the decades, they've gone in and out of fashion. See if you can spot them all. The oldest type is the spout gable. This basic triangular shape is seen only on warehouses. The 17th century step gable looks just as you'd expect, a series of steps. The neck gable, with its straight up and down sides and scrollwork decorations, came a bit later, followed by the bell gable. which has a more rounded, bell-like shape. By the 18th century, the cornice of flat-top was most popular.
There's one thing that all gables have in common: the hoisting beam. Staircases were so narrow and steep that furniture and goods were lifted to the upper floors via the hoisting beams, along with a good strong rope, a hook, and a pulley. Goods were generally stored up high to keep them dry during the city's frequent floods. There's a strong tradition of moving things this way, as even newly constructed houses have narrow stairways and are still equipped with hoisting beams.
Until the 18th century, house numbers didn't exist in Amsterdam. Instead, people relied on gable stones. These carved and sometimes colorfully painted stones were set into a house's facade, often above the door. Pictures made reference to the occupant's profession or their family crest. For example, a butcher might have a picture of a lamb, a dentist might have a tooth, a miller, a windmill. Illiteracy was high, but such symbols were easy to understand.
As we ride along the canals, keep an eye out for gable stones. There are more than 650 throughout the city. As you find them, you can challenge yourself by guessing what they might mean.
You may have noticed that most of the city's houses are made of brick. That's because bricks could be made locally. They were very porous compared to bricks of today, and had to be oiled, tarred, or painted to protect them against the weather. You'll only see stone on the facades of the wealthiest of homes, because it had to be imported, costing much more than brick.
For the shoppers among us, to the west or left of here is a unique shopping district called or 9 little streets. Each street is a block long and full of boutique and specialty shops. It's a relaxing and fun place to explore.
Hay nhiều cầu ấy.
Coming up on our left at numbers 170 and 172 is a beautiful 17th century red brick mansion with white sandstone accents. This is the Bartolotti House, designed by Hendrik de Keyser, Amsterdam's most famous architect of the time. It was built for a very successful beer brewer named Willem van de Heuvel. He changed his name to Bartolotti to honor an Italian relative who had left him a sizable inheritance. The facade has 2 inscribed panels that reflect Bartolotti's and many other 17th century businessmen's values. They read, through talent and diligence, and through piousness and virtue.
Homes like Bartolotti's were designed to showcase their owners' enormous riches, and yet, this was a time when Calvinistic views predominated. Calvinism is a form of Christianity that emphasizes strict living and industriousness. The rich found themselves in conflict. Their religion required them to be humble, yet with so much wealth, how could they not show it off? Often they ended up quietly trying to outdo each other.
Hai bồ câu. Hải Âu. Ở đây tàu quá chừng nè.
Today, the city's many canals are still used for transportation and for managing water levels. And they also have a new function, as a place to live. Amsterdam always seems to be short on housing, and during a real crunch in the 1960s and 70s, houseboats appeared as cheap places to live. The city now has around 2,500 of them. Some are old converted sailing vessels. Others are simply homes set on floating pads. As for cheap, not anymore. Houseboats are now connected to gas, water, electricity, and municipal sewage. And owners have to pay taxes, just like anyone else.
Checks to see the harem on board ladies and kindness.
Nước như vậy không có chỗ nào trồng, chỉ có biển.
Сюда поднимали наклонение груза, да. Это вот эти окна потом переделали, а раньше были складские помещения, вот такие дверцы открывались, туда груз поднимался.
Have you noticed how many homes have brick facades or faces? At first, Amsterdammers built their homes entirely out of wood, but after two massive fires at the end of the 16th century, the city took action. It passed a law requiring that all newly constructed buildings have facades made of non-flammable brick or stone. But all older buildings were still made of wood, and Amsterdam experienced one of its biggest fires along the Keizersgracht during the 18th century. Today, the risk of fire persists. Even though reinforced concrete is used for new construction, many of the older houses still have their original wooden skeletons.
Xưa nhà làm bằng cây đó, giờ làm bằng xi măng. Chị nghe nó nghĩ chắc 5 thước à. 4 thước, 5 thước. Ló đầu lên xuống chèn trên đầu lên xuống.
We are now approaching Brouwer's Brook, or the Brewer's Canal. This canal was part of the city's 17th century extension. It connects the three main canals, the Herrengracht, the Keizersgracht, and the Prinsengracht, and used to form the northwest border of the city. With its arched bridges, many houseboats, and beautiful architecture, it's now one of the most picturesque waterways in the city.
But that wasn't always the case. Many of the industries banned from residential areas ended up here. That included the smelly ones, like leather and whale oil processing. And of course, beer brewing, which gave the Brewer's Canal its name. Because water quality was so poor, people turned to beer as a safer, healthier drink. Only the rich could afford wine, which was imported, but everyone drank beer.
Many of the buildings you see are old workshops and factories, or warehouses. Merchants originally stored goods in their houses, but as trade increased, more and more warehouses were built. See if you can spot some. Look for triangular spout gables and windows with wooden shutters. The shutters help keep goods dry and dark.
Nói ông ơi, hãy lái vô trong đây nè, đừng lái bên đây, thằng kia nó chạy tới, nó ép. Không phải ra, chỉ ông này lái sập vô đây. Ba dịch lại. Tại thằng kia nó lái tới, mà ngoài trước thì nó cà phê. Đụng cái nhào luôn gì.
Ну, это очень мощная лиана. Она, вот, если ее посадить, она растается очень сильно. Можно попросить пару видео?
Traffic. Có cái kiến nè, coi coi.
We are now on the single, passing the law that was originally built to regulate Amsterdam's water levels and to keep the city from flooding at high tide. Nowadays,
Có cái thên là rau này nè.
closed Amsterdam's harbor off from the North Sea. And city residents don't have to worry about tides. Instead, the locks are used to flush water through the canals, keeping them clean.
Hoặc là đi đường này, hoặc đi đường này.
Amsterdam replaces the gate every 50 years.
Quay vô đây, về ra đây.
If you look closely, you might find the date these gates were last replaced. It's recorded on the gates themselves.
Thằng kia phải chờ. Về đây đi đường này. Thì đi đường này về nè. 5 phút à? Còn 5 phút nữa tới. Bên kia nữa. Ồ.
Er ligt er eentje onder de brug, hè? Ook. Ja.
Ông khoái. Ông khoái lắm, ông cười ha. Ông này thằng nhỏ này đi vô đường đó. Tàu của tụi nó. Tại chỗ này gắt quá, nó không có quẹo đây được, nó phải vô đây, nó ve. Đang tập mà, đang tập. Thì về gần tới.
Sao gần tới được? Đi sao?
15 phút nữa, 5 phút nữa tới. Phải nói một tiếng.
Tiếng ai lái, tiếng anh lại lái.
Tiếng này lạ không ta?
And no talk about transportation in Amsterdam would be complete without mentioning bicycles. You probably figured out that they're Amsterdamers' favorite mode of transport. All around Central Station are places to park, from a huge multi-level bike parking area to a converted ferry filled to capacity with bikes. More people bike than drive to work. And it's estimated that the city has around 1.6 million bikes. That's more bikes than people.
Đi ngang chỗ lớp nè.
Very practical. Single speed scooters with foot brakes.
Chỗ lớp nó đậu đây nè.
For carrying everything under the sun, including children.
Lớp.
In Amsterdam, expect to
Lớp
see everyone from a sophisticated business executive to
chào
the
lớp
hairy mother
cà
of
phê.
three, humping away on a two-wheeler.
Ồ, bên đây đứng là hết uống bia.
Central Station, the transportation hub of Amsterdam, is built on 3 artificial islands and is supported by around 8,600 wooden piles. The building was designed by 2 architects, Kuipers and Van Klint, and its front is really quite amazing. Made of red brick and white accents, it's a combination of Neo-Renaissance style and Neo-Gothic towers, and is called eclectical architecture.
Na de Hophonopost gaat de BZ3 even rond hier bij P2. Dat moet graag bij de deur gaan. Oké, dankjewel.
Waarom heb jij zo'n grote boot?
Dan moet je dat ze maar even toevertrouwen.
Anh kia về mà không có khách luôn. Chỗ này chỗ nào nữa? Chỗ này chỗ nào? Victoria nè, Caivo nè. Sắp tới rồi. Sắp tới rồi bà con ơi. Mất cách 17 đồng rồi. Victoria Hotel.
Their ingenuity and hard work have paid off. That first dam across the river started a series of events that's led to the incredibly unique and picturesque Amsterdam we're able to enjoy today.
Đây là cái metro. Này về không biết đậu lại cái đường nổi. Kỳ này mình đi Phú Tàu mà cho ăn tại công mới chọc lá. Tại công này ế tàu để ế.
Ik zei, dat soort dingen doe je niet. Voor een euro. Ja, nou niks mee te schaffen. Je doet het echt. Echt voor een euro. Al ga je anderen niks. Ja, ook wel.
này lái vô sao nha. Kia phải chơi quay ai phát. Xí. Mọi người thấy không happy gì hết. Đậu quá trên tàu mà không ai đi. Bến tàu này hơi ế. Ồ, chưa tới hả? Ông già này chắc cũng được với bơi, đầu hối, tóc bạc. Hết 1 tiếng đồng hồ rồi. Chừng đúng rồi nha. Ok. Đảo một vòng. Đảo rồi cặp bến liền. Quay vô liền. Là đi vô rồi sao? Đi vô bên đây. Vô trong đây nè. Người ta có trôi không? Rồi vô bên bến kia. Vô bên này. Nó ve lại đó. Giảm tốc độ. Hồi xưa ba có lái tàu Việt Biên luôn mà. Xưa mấy người kia cho bà lái luôn. Ba là em chú tàu mà được ngồi trên cabin. Còn mấy kia ngồi nằm dưới cái bon nè, cái bon dưới đây nè. Chuyến đi du lịch tàu kết thúc. Xin chào bà con. Ông này lái dở quá. Này lái mà